Hello, Heather. Here's some video feedback for you. It'll be all of week 3, and I'll also talk about the wireframes from last week's discussion, or peer discussion. And I will take a look at your journal entry last. It's tied in some ways to your wireframes, which you want to project for your client. Will largely be determined by the way that you lay out your pages. And you'll develop more precision doing that in weeks 5, where you're introduced to things like the div tag. What else? You can follow along with the rubrics. The rubrics for 3.2 and 3.3 are short. There's just 2 items to meet. The journal rubric is a bit longer, but I try to address each of the items in the rubric in my video feedback. And hello. Heather, your wireframes are very nicely done. And one of the things I like about them is that you have filled these boxes with gray value that gives some sense of the weight of an image or a photographic image. And that's realistic too, because it makes you aware of these white interstices that you are making. I would try to control them, wherever possible, get photographs to butt up to each other or navigation bars. And I like this idea of bleeding an image left to right. Any way that you can simplify things rather than put them in boxes, I think would be good. I like the versions where the navigation and the logo are towards the top, so I think I'm favoring this third solution with imagery, and I like the idea of a banner. Presumably that would be the image in here. I think I posted some examples where they had a moving banner of images. This, you could do the same thing, maybe have the logo, if it were transparent. There are some file formats that do support transparency. Take note of SVG format, I believe it is, single vector file format, and that supports transparency. Also, your logo, if it's line art, will remain crisp at any scale. Less fond of where the navigation takes up so much room, but on the other hand, it's something different, and it does call your attention to catering and other events. So that is another way of doing a navigation system, just reserving this part in the middle, I guess, for content. Distinctive, for sure, maybe useful, too. Good job with the wireframes. Heather, I'm looking at your page in Safari for the Macintosh. I've gone up to the Develop tab, and I've scrolled down to Show Page Source. This will allow me to see your coding while I view live your page as well. I see that you've met the requirements of the rubric. The first was, have you added styling to using the client's chosen palette to your type? And I see that you've done that. Now, you've used Papyrus. Papyrus is a typeface. I don't think it's part of the corporate typefaces for Pasta Amore. It's also a typeface that has a bad reputation. So just Google why designers hate Papyrus. I'm kind of indifferent to it, but just know that what your accomplishment here is that you have used a non-standard web typeface. What it should be, of course, is Aphelis, I think. Gaudi Old Style, or there's another sans serif, I think, typeface for Pasta Amore. But you have, nonetheless, you've met the requirements of the rubric, and you've been able to upload it, as I can see here. One of the things about viewing it in Safari that is kind of nifty with this is that it splits the screen. Here is your code down below. I see some great meta tags or comments here, and I see some inline styling. Know that you'll want to migrate eventually to an external style sheet. But for the purposes of this assignment, good going. Heather, this is a great collection of sitemap and evidence of your file management. I like this simple branching diagram. It's very clear to me. If you finish your site, you might consider having these tertiary level pages. But just know that, for this class, that's not necessary. It would be quite adequately fulfilled if you had just a secondary level and, fleshed out pages for each of these 5 links. Nice diagram. Even I understand it. Very clear. And I think what happens is your coded sitemap jumped down here. Let me zoom in. It looks like you've got the idea. Actually, you have the idea perfectly. This is your list and your unordered list. That's what the UL is. Each of these links, it has a URL attached to it, it looks like, or a resource attached to it. And this is ready to be made into your navigation scheme. So good job. Take a look at Chapter 2 of HTML5 Foundations to find out how that is done. You've met the requirements of the rubric, which were that there is a coded sitemap as well as a visual sitemap, and you've given us evidence, or given me evidence, that you know how to control your files or manage your files, not only on your Mac, which I also have a Mac, by the way, as well as GeoCities here. So that shows me that you're able to use GeoCities file manager, just as I recommended. Good going. And you've got folders for images, folder for the CSS, which you're anticipating, and you've got your homepage index.html. Good going. Look forward to seeing how your website shapes up. Heather, your journal entry is very thorough, and what I really like about it is you have links. There's quite a few things that I didn't know. Trellion's keyword discovery. Let's see, what does that link to? Curious. Interesting. Okay, so this will become useful. Technological tools like this will become useful when you optimize your page for search engines. And you'll want them to do keyword searches. You'll have to come up with a list of keywords associated with your site that you can then place as meta tags to be searchable, not visible to the viewer, but they're present on your web page. So you've considered your demographics. You've given us an age range and other details about the focus group and the audience for your website. You've given us some questions that you would ask of the client. You've also given us some questions that you would ask of the focus group. Consider other types of market research. There is Google Analytics. There is the U.S. Census. There's also a whole host of Nielsen survey data, which you can pay, but our client might want to pay. But in general, a great response to the journal entry. And it looks like you have a clear idea of what your audience is.